This week on the Analog Circle podcast, we get a lot of alleged Nintendo Switch 2 rumors when it comes to how powerful the Switch 2 will be. CD Projekt Red's CFO tells us what year The Witcher 4 will not, and I repeat, will not be releasing in, and it's going to give us a clear picture as to when we can expect for the game to release. We get another update on Naughty Dog's The Heretic Prophet from the man himself, Neil Druckmann, that actually hints at gameplay being shown off soon, and WB Games is shutting down 3 more studios. All of these stories can be found here and a whole lot more in episode 251 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and welcome to the show. Welcome. Come on in, sit down and relax because we're going to have a great conversation today. And if you're traveling by bus, car, plane, train, whatever the case may be, hopefully we can accompany you to your destination. Now, if you do want to be a part of listener feedback, and shout out to you, Cody Clark, I got you this Wednesday on the listener feedback when we go over the Nintendo Direct. But if you do want to be a part of that episode, you can do it 2 different ways. You can either call in at 443-627-9087 and let your voice literally be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is simply the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news that went down. So this is what I want to start things off with. I got this story from Insider Gaming. Now, Ghost of Yote's senior communications manager just reconfirmed that the game still has a release window of 2025, which is excellent news. Of course, we do understand that when it comes to those release windows, they can sometimes get pushed further into the future. Very few times do we see a case where the game actually comes out early, but at least it does seem like the game is still scheduled for this year. We'll see what happens. The other story that I wanted to go over, ESPN, that's the source that I got this story from. The Legend of Zelda movie has been confirmed to release on March 26th, 2027. Now, the thing that has me slightly worried about this, brothers and sisters, is that it is going to be a live action film. Oh, I don't know how that's gonna work out. I'm a little iffy on that, a little shaky. I don't know how that's going to work. Can they get a person that looks like Link, looks like Zelda, Ganon, I mean, the whole 9. And plus, I have a whole newfound respect for the doggone Zelda franchise. I mean, a whole new respect. Goodness gracious. That Switch, Legend of Zelda, not Tears of the Kingdom, but the first one. Man, playing through that has been absolutely awesome. I have enjoyed it. Fantastic game. So with that being said, I'm just hoping that they do the movie right, but we'll see. Usually when it comes to this live action, it's gotten a lot better when it comes to video game adaptations over the last couple of years. It's gotten a lot better, but we will see what happens with this. Maybe Nintendo will be able to sprinkle some of their Nintendo magic on it when it comes down to the release. They sure did it with the Mario movies. So, there's some positivity out there in the fact that they may be able to pull this one off. But the other thing that I wanted to cover this week as well, just getting into the quick stories, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass subscribers will be getting some additional perks, such as in-game bonuses for various free-to-play games that include cosmetic items, new characters, and in-game currency for games such as Heroes of the Storm, Naraka Blade Point, and the Finals. Now, in April, Call of Duty, Warzone, and Enlisted are expected to receive similar benefits that you can see through the Game Pass tab. Now, this is the thing. I kind of butchered that a little bit, but you can expect to see similar benefits with Call of Duty, Warzone, and Enlisted. But what I was trying to say is you can see the benefits through the Game Pass tab, where you'll be able to see what benefits you'll be receiving by being an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. Now, Microsoft didn't reveal when these perks reset or change, but it could take longer than a month to see those changes. Now, this is the thing. I think that's great. I mean, it's not too much I can say about that. I think it's always great that Microsoft is trying to add value to something that already is a fantastic value by itself. Game Pass having all of these different games, be there day and date. It's always great. It's always great to see that. You got South of Midnight. That's the newest game coming up. Then you got Doom releasing, along with a couple of others, with Call of Duty pretty much topping out the end of the year. So them actually throwing in some extra perks, some extra currency when it comes to the in-game currency, it's a fantastic thing. It's great to see. Great to see. Even though I will never support Game Pass, it's not my thing. Can't knock them for, giving more value to the people that are subscribed. So never can be mad at that. But let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the official first story of the week. And I got this story from Daily Star. So let's get started with some, I would say, Switch rumors.
Rumor has it it's something that only I know.
So next week is a huge week for Nintendo with the unveiling of the Switch 2, where I'm sure we'll get all of the specs, we'll get the specs from that show of the Nintendo Switch 2. But according to an insider named Secret Boy, he allegedly already has some of the specs of the upcoming console. Now, he said, and I quote, "People should really be prepared for 3 teraflops docked and around half that in handheld mode. I don't expect people to believe me, but that's what I've heard the final specs are." End of quote. Like I say, with these things, with rumors, you always have to take it with a mustard seed of truth. Now, with that being said, let's put this into perspective a little bit. So it's not going to be remotely close to current gen consoles. I mean, at 3 teraflops, that ain't even, that's not even, you missed it by a country mile, as it were, as far as being close or comparable to the consoles of today, of this generation. But if this is true, like I said, with rumors, you never know, but let's say this is true. Let's say it's true, it'll be 1 teraflop weaker than the Series S in dock mode. That's what this is saying. This guy, Secret Boy, basically he is saying that the Switch 2 is going to be 1 teraflop weaker than the Series S when it's docked. Now, this is where it does get a little intriguing. Now, the PlayStation 4 had 1.84 teraflops for a GPU. And the big body Xbox One, the original joint, looked like a VCR, out here, that had 1.31 teraflops of power. So if this is the case, the Switch 2 would be almost 2 times as powerful as last gen hardware. Now, as far as the handheld power goes, because this is very interesting as well. Again, we are going off of if this report is true. But when we're talking about it from a handheld standpoint, as far as the power goes, the report says it will be, again, half of the 3 teraflops. So let's say it's going to be 1.5 teraflops. In handheld mode. To put it in perspective yet again, the Steam Deck is at 1.6 teraflops right now. So it's possible that the Switch 2 could be very close in performance as a Steam Deck. Now put that into perspective. That is a huge leap for Nintendo to pretty much to be more powerful than a PlayStation 4 and a Xbox One, and in handheld mode be about the same, be the equivalent pretty much as a Steam Deck. I'm just imagining what the graphics are going to look like on this thing. Now, Secret Boy also had one more piece of info where he said, and I quote, "I've also heard that the screen is 120 hertz LCD that supports VRR, though which is amazing because developers can optimize the handheld profiles of their games with VRR and 40 FPS LCD that can support VRR which is amazing because developers can optimize the handheld profiles of their games with VRR and 40 frames per second in mind." End of quote. So he didn't say 60. He said 40. Now, if you're optimizing your games at 40 frames per second, now I know that for some people, that's the sweet spot when it comes to the 4K, type of resolution. They say 40 frames isn't too bad. If this thing, an 120 hertz screen, a LCD screen, I got to say, that sounds pretty nice. The good thing is we won't have to wait too long. Wednesday is coming up, which is the 2nd, when we'll get this show, and we'll probably, like I said, get these details officially then. But until then, like I said before, take all of this with a mustard seed, just a grain of mustard. Take it with that. That's about how much truth this is as it stands right now. So we will see what happens with this when it happens. But to think about the graphics, we saw what the PlayStation 4 was able to do with The Last of Us Part 2. And we know that Nintendo is one thing about them, even though did y'all see that Nintendo show that just happened over the week? Oh my gosh. Hurt. Nothing but hurt. I saw nothing. Absolutely nothing on that show that was impressive. The whole time I'm looking at this show, I'm just feeling the pain. That show was abysmal. When I saw Metroid, I thought Metroid was going to be a beacon of hope, a beacon of light in a dark situation. Man, I said, God, dog, this was the game that was supposed to blow our minds. This was it. Oh, shucks. Obviously, you haven't seen doggone, Horizon Forbidden West. You haven't seen God of War. You haven't seen Ratchet and Clank, mother lover. What the world is going on here? Now, granted, that was on the Switch, the original Switch. Who knows, man? That joker better be beefed up when it comes to the Switch 2. That thing better look like it is on steroids when we see it on the Switch 2, because if it's slightly better than it was on the Switch, on the Switch 2, man, you better get to walking and try harder, because after that show, let me tell y'all something. After that show, it definitely made me feel less excited about this upcoming show on Wednesday. I said, God, y'all send the Switch off like this? Y'all send it off like this? Mike J told me that was the worst eulogy that he had heard when it came to finally putting to rest a console that was so consistent this doggone generation. Well, their generation. It was so consistent. It is the best Nintendo system I have ever seen. It's been better than the Super Nintendo, because to me, Super Nintendo was always the bar. In my mind, Nintendo never did better than the Super Nintendo. And I'm not talking about sales. I'm talking about games, just strictly about the games. They never got to that pinnacle again because the N64, oh my gosh, horrible. Just a couple of good games. Mario 64, Star Fox 64. That was it. I was out. That was it. I might have been 2 or 3 more, but that was a bad generation. I did not enjoy the N64 that much. The innovation that they brought to the table was awesome. Fantastic. Game changing. So much so that it still exists today. So that was about the best thing that came out of that generation was the Rumble Pack and the analog stick. That was about it. You talk about the GameCube, that didn't do too well either. Talk about the Wii, that was abysmal. And then you talk about the Wii U, oh my gosh. Yeah, you could forget it. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. So the Switch had everything, had the portability, had the dock mode where you could actually enjoy it at home, and it had the games library, games coming out on a consistent basis that were really great games. Despite me not liking some of them, doesn't matter. They were great games for the audience that they were catering to. So with that being said, I would have thought that they would have sent the Switch off on a better note. Thought they would have set up a nice spread for them. Come on to the dining room table. We're going to break out the fine china and have you eating steak and lobster, crab cakes. We're going to just break out the whole spread for you. We're going to make sure that we don't spare any expenses. These jokers came to the table with paper and foam plates and said, here's some oodles and noodles. Put that on your plate with some chopped up hot dogs on the plate. Darn. I said, this is horrible. How are you going to send the doggone Switch off like that? Anyway, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. I'm not too convinced right now. I think that I said Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see what happens, but I'm really not that excited. I'm a little nervous. Because I'm like, what do they have? I'm all right. I'm not going to say I'm not excited. I am excited. I do want to see what's going to be there, but my expectations, that's what I'm trying to get to. My expectations have been dropped quite a bit. When that guy, and like I said, these rumors, you can only take them with the mustard seed of truth. But when dude said your mind is going to be blown when you see Metroid, the only thing I'm hoping for is that it's going to be better on the Switch 2. The Switch 2 version is going to bring it home for all of us. But anyway, let me go ahead and let's get into the next story because I want to get y'all out of here in a good time. So this next story I actually got from Elena. And matter of fact, we got to talk about some. Yeah, we got to talk about some. I would have to say, yeah, let's talk about some money.
Show me the money.
We got to go over these numbers, man. So in quick news, Astrobot has now sold more than 2.3 million copies. Wow. 2.3 mil. Now, it's actually sold that since its release. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of copies, but looking at Glassdoor data, the median game developer salary in Team Asobi's hometown of Tokyo is around $45,600 a year. And with 60 people working on it for 3 years, that comes out to roughly about $9 million, not including advertisement costs and things of that nature. But if you take that 2.3 million and times it by $60, you get $138 million for the whole project. So that That within itself, you put up 9 million, but you got back 138 million. That is a huge, huge win. You made roughly, I mean, we'll bump it up another, let's say 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's take it up to 15 million. You still doggone at $15 million on the budget. You still made what? Like $122 million profit. So that's fantastic. Might not have had the big numbers, but again, this is why it's important that I think sometime down the line in gaming, and I know they're working on it right now with the AI and things of that nature, trying to make the cost come down. But if you can get that cost down to a reasonable number, the video game industry will be fine. I don't think every game needs to be $150 to $200 million for a budget. When a game like Astrobot had a $9 million budget on it, and it won Game of the Year off of that. So hopefully this trend will continue. Games, and granted, now I'm not going to sit up here and say I don't want AAA games. I'm not going to go up here and say, oh man, we need these AA experience, brothers and sisters. That's all we need. Bump that. I'm not saying that at all. I need the AAA blockbuster games on a regular basis. But I will say I do believe that they could lower the cost possibly a little bit more than what they are working with today to actually make it where they could really eat a lot more, eat a lot better, as it were, by, keeping extra money in their pocket. But we'll see how that goes and we'll see what happens with that sometime in the future. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into the next story that I got from The Gamer. So a lot of us have been looking forward to The Witcher 4 ever since it was shown off. Oh, man, back at the Game Awards in 2024. Well, since then, it's been information leaking out. It's been tons of information here and there leaking out about the game. But we, the one thing that we've heard was, it could release this year. I was definitely on that train. I said it could definitely come out this year. The way that they've been working on it seems like they're ahead of schedule. I think it might come out at the end of 2025. Well, all of that, I got to say, after I said that, yeah, all of that definitely, that came to a screeching halt, brothers. That dude came out here and said, nah, that's not happening because, their CEO, CD Projekt Red CFO, pardon me, his name is, oh man, I can't even begin to pronounce this brother's name. His first name is spelled Piotr. Pop, man, Pioneer. I don't know. I'm going to call him Brother P. That's his name, but his first name is spelled Piotr, and his last name is spelled Nielub, Nailibowitz. Nailibowitz is spelled Nielubowicz. Nebelowitz. Man, shout out to you, Brother P. I'm going to call you that. But he spoke during an earnings presentation where he said the studio does, quote, not plan to release. Man, I sound like Maury. Then you are not the fun. Nah, but anyway, he said the studio does, quote, not plan to release The Witcher 4 by the end of 2026. We are not going to announce the precise launch date for the game yet. All we could share now to give more visibility to investors is that the game will not be launched within the time frame of the first target for the incentive program, which ends December 31st, 2026. So unfortunately, 2026 was the target. I didn't know. I thought it was at the end of this year was the target, but their target was 2026 by the end of it. He said it's not gonna happen, Jack. It's not going to be the case. It's not gonna make it out in 2026. So I'm thinking And I'm sure y'all are probably thinking the same thing. Of course, nothing is in concrete. We don't know how these things work, the inner workings of anything. I don't have any insiders. So the only thing I can think is this game will probably release sometime in 2027, maybe mid 2027 or towards the end of 2027, which will be interesting because we'll be kind of gearing up during that time for the PlayStation 6. And I mean, if Xbox is still in the game, they should have another console out by then. And I'm sure that The Witcher 4 will probably be one of those games, even though they haven't said it will be. It'll probably be a cross-gen developed game, at that time. So I guess the point is, don't expect The Witcher 4 anytime soon. It's going to be a while. So yeah, just remember, it's probably going to be around, when the new consoles are coming out. Anyway, let's go ahead, though, and let's move on into the next story that I actually got from PlayStation Lifestyle. So now, right now, we're all aware that Naughty Dog is working on it, and I'm so excited about this game. They're working on Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, which a lot of us, are anticipating. I think that's fair to say. Maybe not everybody, but you know what? I'll speak for me. It's a game that I'm definitely anticipating. I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog, big fan of Neil Druckmann. I enjoy his work. So yeah, I'm definitely anticipating that. But studio head, like I just brought up, Neil Druckmann, had a little bit to say last week about the game, but this week, y'all remember that clip I played last week where he talked about the game, what the premise was and how long he's been working on it. It's based around religion, getting stuck on a planet. Nobody's there. Then all of a sudden a signal comes out and, you got to try to find your way off of the planet. So yeah, he talked about it a little bit last week, but IGN actually spoke with him during the premiere of The Last of Us season 2 premiere, where Druckmann said this. He said, and I quote, "I will say we are playing it at the office and it's incredible. It's really good. I'm so excited," and this is where it gets interesting. He says, "I'm so excited to finally put gameplay out into the world and show people about it, because we just showed you the very, very, very tip of the iceberg. The game goes pretty deep beyond that." End of quote. So is it possible that we get gameplay this year? I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see, if that does happen. But by him saying he's ready to share the gameplay with the world, I can only imagine. Like I said, if Sony was to do a showcase, this is the year to do it. Nintendo is going up on Wednesday for, I would say, kind of like their, what would you call this, man? Maybe like a pre warm up to what they're probably going to show at, E3. Well, I keep saying E3, but E3 season, as it were. I'm sure they're going to have another show at that time. So I'm going to call this is probably just the build up show to get you excited for what we'll probably see in June. We know that Microsoft is going to be on the stage and they got a lot to show. I know they have a lot to show. After last year's show, man, Microsoft knocked that joker out the park. It still hurts that the games are going to other platforms. Oh, it hurts so bad. But I cannot knock their show. That was like a perfect show. Best show they ever had. So they're going to be on the stage, I'm sure, once again. They've never dropped the ball. If it's one thing you can say about Xbox, they've never dropped the ball when it's come to actually having a E3 show. So with Nintendo possibly having another show over the summer, with Xbox having a show over the summer, I understand they haven't done it in the past, but since PlayStation has been pretty quiet when it comes to their first party games, I think that this will be the year that we could see them take to the stage. And just imagine Neil Druckmann gets up on stage and he starts showing off the Heretic Prophet. Oh Oh, man, it could be amazing. That, along with Wolverine and, Ghosts of Yotai, whatever the case may be, because, we just went over that is still releasing this year. We just don't know when. Well, release window is this year. Along with some other games that we don't know about, they could really have an amazing show. So hopefully we get something on the Heretic Prophet that we can actually see and really enjoy, as far as the gameplay goes. But let's go ahead though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I got from 9 Meters. So we've been seeing the Rocky Road. God dog, these jokers been on. Man, they've been in an avalanche. But we've been seeing this terrible rocky road that WB Games has been going through with Suicide Squad not performing well, to spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Wonder Woman to just eventually cancel it. I mean, it's just been real bad over there. But unfortunately, as WB restructures some things, it was announced that Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers Games San Diego have been shut down. Now, the reason for this, man, that really sucks, man. But the reason for this is because WB and Discovery are trying to improve profitability within its interactive entertainment division. Man, listen, y'all, let's do a moment, just a moment of silence for these studios. Let's just take a moment. Man, oh man, it's just terrible. It's terrible. Now, the thing is, if you were interested in what games these companies worked on, I got a bit of a list for you. WB San Diego, they developed the Injustice games. They developed the DC Lego games and they assisted with the Mortal Kombat games as well. They are no longer around. Monolith Studios, they made Fear, Condemned, Condemned Criminal Origins. They made Condemned 2, Bloodshot, and, one of their more popular games, Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War. That was their resume. And then you get to Player First Games. They didn't have much of a resume. They only really made multiverses. And they had around 44 employees at that studio. So they didn't have the same cachet as the other two, but nonetheless, 3 studios are shut down and all of that talent has unfortunately been dismantled at this time. And it's just it's always a constant reminder of how things have been going in the gaming industry. I get it. It's a course correction right now. A lot of companies, they overhired. That's what I've been hearing. I don't know how true that is, but for WB Games, it just seems like it's more of a situation where they just can't afford it. I mean, they said that they have to improve profitability, within its interactive entertainment division. So usually when a company is trying to make more money, they start doing cutbacks, and in those cutbacks, unfortunately, people, lose their jobs, which is very, very unfortunate. But hopefully these guys will be able to land on their feet and get back into the gaming industry, because that's a lot of talent, possibly being lost forever. Because some people said that once they've been fired, if you go on Twitter and you look at some of the guys, some of the men and women that used to be in the industry, some of them have been saying they're not even trying to get back into the industry. They're trying to find something else because the industry is too fickle right now, and they need something that's going to be steady, something that they can rely on as far as a paycheck goes and not have to be worried, after every project, am I going to be laid off? Are we still going to be around, or what's going to happen? Is the team size going to get, shrunk down? So those people, their talent will no longer be in the industry, but hopefully eventually this thing will finally reach the ground floor and they can start building it back up, but I'm not trying to put a bleak picture out there because you have plenty of other studios that are around and they're doing well. But my thing is, you never want to see anybody lose their job, especially in this kind of climate, as far as, what we're going through with how much, stuff costs, how high stuff is. Bread costs $30 right now for a loaf of bread. $35, man. And they took the crust off. They taking the crust off the bread too. $35. Anyway, let's go ahead though, guys, and let's move on into the next story that I actually got from GameSpot. So similar to WB Games, Ubisoft has also had a hard way to go. Ubisoft, man, these jokers been on their heels right now. They've been having a hard way to go lately with titles like Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, not really making the numbers that they needed it to. And the one that hurt my heart the most when it comes to Ubisoft and the game not meeting the expectations of the sales numbers was absolutely Star Wars Outlaws. That one right there. That hurt because I really, really loved Star Wars Outlaws, and I was hoping, I was so hopeful that we would be getting a sequel, but ain't no darn way we get the sequel. The game did not cut the mustard, but I thought it was so doggone good, man. But those two, they didn't perform well enough, and like I said, as a result, well, I didn't say this yet, but as a result of these different projects not going well, them not making the money that they needed to, Ubisoft has created a new, quote, dedicated subsidiary, end of quote, focused on 3 major franchises. They're going to be focusing on Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry. Now, Tencent is investing $1.25 billion USD to take a minority stake of around 25% of this new subsidiary. Now, Ubisoft also said that parts of the business that are not included in this new entity include the Division. These are the ones that are on the outside. The Division and Ghost Recon, along with the development of certain new IPs. They will continue in parallel, but it's unknown to what extent these changes could result in potential layoffs or studio closures. So it seems like pretty much Ubisoft, they have this, subsidiary situation where they have Tencent backing them at $1.25 billion, taking 25% of this new subsidiary, as theirs. I'm telling you, Tencent continues to keep creeping up a little more, and a little more. It's like they are slowly taking over Ubisoft bit by bit. And because they need the money, I'm sure that, Yves Guillemot, I'm sure he knows what's going on. But when you need the money, and it's no knock against him. He has people to feed. He got people that have families that need to be paid. He has studios that need to stay open. Electric, gas inside of the buildings need to stay on. You got to do what you got to do in order to make, things happen. But them actually doing this to concentrate on Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six, it does make sense because at this point in time, I would have to believe that those are their best franchises. Those are the ones that sell pretty well, to this day. I was hoping that Watch Dogs would have become one of those IPs. Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything from Watch Dogs since Legion, which I thought sold pretty well enough to possibly get another shot. But that game has not been back since, and that's been a couple of years ago at this point. So with them doing this, we'll just have to see, what kind of effect this is going to have on the studio. I mean, like the article said, you don't know what the results are going to be. People could get laid off or studios could close, as a result of this. But we'll definitely see what happens with this in the near future. Let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I got from Screen Rant. So, before we get into, I'll tell you what, let me do this first. Let me piggyback off of WB for a second. Now, Bloomberg is reporting, this was something else I meant to include in that report, that the Hogwarts DLC and the rumored Hogwarts Legacy Definitive Edition, as a result of the things that have been happening around there, those projects have been canceled. So there will be no DLC for Hogwarts Legacy, and the definitive edition is not going to happen. Unfortunately, I actually have Hogwarts Legacy. Haven't played it yet. Yeah, I ain't played it yet, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I definitely want to play it. I look forward to it one day. I'm just trying to get through this backlog. Oh, speaking of getting through a backlog, this wasn't a backlog game, but I did just finish Bright Memory Infinite over the week. I think it was maybe on a last Wednesday I finished it up. Man, I enjoyed the heck out of that game. It took me about 3 hours and 50 minutes to beat it, but that was some of the most fun I have had in a almost 4 hour period playing that game. That game was dope. That game was amazing. Really enjoyed it. I would give that game a solid 8. I mean, a solid 8, maybe 8.5 out of 10. They really have some real good bones there to really be able to build on it. They have a great foundation, I would say, to build on. They flesh out the story a little bit more, flesh out the characters, do a little bit of work with the gameplay. The gameplay was very good, but when it was running at 60, you could see the screen kind of flickering. At the 60, it wasn't like smooth. The gameplay was smooth, but when you looked at the screen, you could see some of the tears, a little bit of screen tearing, when you will be making the moves and stuff. So it was great, though. Well worth the $20. I didn't feel cheated. Then I put the game in third person mode. Oh, man. Fantastic. They got something. I just hope that they work on it and make it even better, because that could be a very, very good franchise if they just put the time into it and the resources. They got something. Hopefully we'll see something of a Bright Memory. Bright Memory Infinite times 2. I don't know, something like that. But in the future, we'll see what happens with that. But let me see. What's the next one? Okay, let's get into the next story, because I think I might be able to get y'all out of here in an hour. That's what I'm trying to do, because I got to be to work. Oh, shucks, I got to be to work in an hour. So, yeah, I got to move on. All right, let's get on into this next story that I got from VGC. So, not long ago, we saw a trailer from, he was an ex-GTA producer, Leslie Benzies, called Mind's Eye. I don't know if y'all saw that trailer. It was a good trailer, though. Mind's Eye kind of had like a feeling of GTA mixed with a little bit of cyberpunk. Looked real good. Now, this is the thing. It's described as, quote, a story-driven action-adventure thriller set in a fictional near-future Americana, end of quote, and featuring, quote, best-in-class cinematics, high-octane driving, and explosive combat, end of quote. Now, the more interesting and exciting thing about this game is it actually has a release date. Now, it's going to be releasing June 10th, 2024. Now, this game, a lot of people saw it. I think it was at PlayStation Show, to be fair, the last state of play that they had. And a lot of people saw it and they said, nah, it's no way that game is coming out this year. But June 10th, 2024, it will be released. Matter of fact, I think I would implore you to watch the trailer. But if you haven't seen the trailer, we're going to go over it together right now. Here we go.
In his research, Dr. Morrison identified a paradox. A moment where machine learning would evolve past our capabilities of control. He called the first sign of this Alpha.
Welcome to Red Rock.
Man, is it always this hot?
You'll get used to it. Sort of. Not really.
Wow.
Yeah, not bad, huh? It's the latest model.
Interesting.
Companies like Silver Corporation, instead of being thankful, have turned their backs on the very stars and stripes that made them a success.
You still haven't given us clearance for launch.
Give me access to the back-end system of my city block, and then we'll talk.
Today is a very special day. Well, it's not every day we get to test the existential potential of man with machine.
This city loves me, Marco. I can spin this like I always do.
I will not let them stop me.
Yeah, that looks like that's going to be one of those right there. I'm telling you, watch that trailer. Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye. Be on the lookout for it. MINDSEYE. Mind's Eye. Let's go ahead, though, guys. And remember, June 10th, 2025 is going to be releasing. But let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's get into the next story that I actually got from Windows Central. So, have you been curious? Because I darn sure have been curious about this, but have you been curious to know how many Xbox copies of their games have sold on PlayStation? I would say, yeah, I wanted to know. So, according to Alenia Analytics, it's spelled AINEA, Alenia Analytics, Sea of Thieves has sold 1.8 million copies on the platform, on the PlayStation 5. 1.8, that is a big number. That is pretty doggone good for a game that's like 100 years old. Fantastic. Now, you have Grounded. Grounded sold roughly around 432,000 copies. Another almost 500,000. Not bad at all. Those two games have one thing in common. And what is that? Multiplayer, online gaming. PlayStation fans seem to really enjoy being online. They're about that gaming life for real. Online, that is. So this is great. Great numbers. But this is where things really start to dive off the side of a mountain. Because when it came to Hi-Fi Rush, that game sold 132,200 copies. Then when it came to Pentiment, oh man. Pentiment, God dog. Pentiment was, But wait, it gets worse. This game right here, brothers and sisters, it sold 14,000 copies. 14,000 copies, doggone Pentiment sold, but people want these Xbox games. 14,000. 14,000. Now, the other thing I will say, though, Age of Mythology, that game sold 41,000 copies. 41,000. Xbox, you had one big winner, you had a runner-up, and then you ain't had nothing else that competed. Nothing else. Hi-Fi Rush, 132,200 copies. Oh, man, 14,000. Now, Pentiment, I ain't gonna lie. Listen, brothers and sisters, I seen that game. Oh, man, that thing looked like a flash game. I understand why it sold what it sold. And a game like Age of Mythology, console players ain't playing them games, man. They not playing those kind of games. Age of Mythology, man, man, how many of y'all were in anticipation? Oh, I can't wait for that new Age of Mythology to drop. I'm going to get it at midnight. How many of y'all were excited about this game? I don't know anybody that plays it. So for everybody out there that's saying, PlayStation fans, they want these games, they dying to get them, and, y'all are paying for our games so that we can get more games. At these numbers are abysmal outside of the 1.8 million and even the 432,000. That's a huge drop off when you're talking about 1.8 million to 432, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So I'm looking at these numbers and I'm saying to myself, overall, Phil, was it really worth it, brother? Was it really, really worth it for extra 132,200 copies of Hi-Fi Rush to sell and 14,000 of Pentiment to sell to completely, in my opinion, other people are going to have a different way of looking at it, but in my opinion, to completely pretty much dismantle any reason for anybody to want to own an Xbox? Was it worth it for those type of numbers? Sea of Thieves is the only hit that you have over there, the only one. And at 1.8 million, some people consider that to be a failure. Some people don't even think that's enough. A lot of people were saying that about Astrobot because of the numbers that it sold. Oh man, that thing tanked. But when you look at the numbers and look at how much it costs for them to actually make it, that 2.3 million doesn't seem too bad. But statistically, 2.3 million on a 70, 80 million user device, 75 to 80 million different people own it. Oh, that is abysmal as well. Make no mistake about it. But they made their money back and a whole lot more, so it kind of makes up for it. But those numbers are treacherous, terrible. So, I'm just saying that anybody out there that wants to act like PlayStation guys are waiting in line and just jumping over hurdles to get to the games, these are the numbers. They're not that great. So we'll see what happens, man, in the future. I don't think too much is going to change. I think, you know what? I do believe Starfield will do well. I think Indiana Jones will probably do pretty well too. Something like Senua's Saga, I don't know. It's a little more on the artsy side of things. I don't know. The first one didn't sell well on the PlayStation 4. So I don't know how well that's going to sell if that title goes over there, just like Starfield. We don't know. We've heard word that certain things are in play that have been seen that pretty much say that it's coming, but Xbox hasn't said anything. So we'll see what happens, though. Let's get into, the next story that I actually got from Games Radar. So reports have been stating that Rocksteady is working on another Batman game, but now due to a job listing, we have an idea when it will be released. So the position is for a senior engine programmer. And it says, quote, Your work will enable the team to deliver the highest quality gaming experience on our target hardware, including high-end PC, PS5, Xbox, Series X and S, and the next generation of consoles. End of quote. So already we can see that yet again, cross-gen development will still be a thing. So I'm guessing that this game is probably going to be out sometime between if they're starting on it right now, we're in 25, 6, 7, 8, 29. I would say maybe between 28 and 29. Might even stretch out to 30 as long as it's been taken for these games to come to market. So we won't be seeing this Batman game for quite some time since they're talking about next gen hardware. We know that that's coming bare minimum 2027. You know, it might squeak out to 2028, but I'm thinking 2027 will be in the new generation or close to it. So this is going to be a ways off, but at least the game is in development and Rocksteady is getting back to their roots. WB again, they're in a lot of, man, it's a war zone over there right now. They got a lot of things going on, but at least they still have Rocksteady there. They didn't get the boot. They're still able to perform, do their thing. They still got Hogwarts over there. That team that did that did great work. So hopefully between the two of those teams and some of their other IPs, they'll be able to get themselves out of this mess, but only time will tell. Let's go ahead, guys, and let's get into a story that I got from the Game Post. So we talked about Naughty Dog earlier, you know, matter of fact, just so I can put this in context, we're going to go over just a little bit more rumors.
Rumor has it is something that only I know.
So we know Neil Druckmann. He's at work on the Heretic Prophet, you know, and all of that great stuff. Now, it's a rumor going around that The Last of Us Part 3 is being worked on. I mean, that was something we heard, talked about it last week. It was very, very interesting, you know, to wonder if those are some characters that we already know and that they actually put fake names on them to throw us off a little bit. Because, hold on, one thing I want to mention, I don't know if y'all read this, but do you know that Tommy was supposed to get his own spinoff game? It never happened, but it was supposed to. It was supposed to have covered his time, you know, when he got to, what was his base? Golly, was it Jordan? It wasn't Jordan. I can't remember. It's like anytime I put myself on the spot to try to remember, Jackson, believe it was Jackson. When he got there, you know, it was supposed to tell a story of how he actually ended up there, the adventures that he went through, the things that he had to, you know, conquer, just things of that nature. I think that would have been dope, but it never happened. So it made me think, could they actually be working on that? It's kind of like a bit of a filler, you know, a gap filler, you know, for the things that he went through on his side. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about this time. But I just wanted to throw that out there, you know, that was something Neil Druckmann and the team were really trying to get together. It just didn't materialize. But the thing I wanted to say is, what if I was to tell you that it was a third game being developed by the creative director and writer of Uncharted: The Lost Legacy? Now, this info was coming from insider Daniel RPK, who said this on his Patreon page. He said, quote, Naughty Dog has a second project. Now, he said second, I said third, but a second project, and he put in parentheses, not The Last of Us 3, directed by Sean Escayg. Now his last name is spelled Escayg. 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 Uncharted: The Lost Legacy Avengers It's been in development for 3 years now. End of quote. So yeah, this guy, he has one really good game and one game that it's a bit of a ding on his record. But when I played the Avengers, I didn't think the game was that bad. I'm starting to think, I don't know. I ain't going to say I'm second guessing myself. I enjoy what I enjoy, but sometimes with these games, I sit here and I say, I don't know what more people want. I understand it was I'm not talking about the Avengers, per se. I'm just saying, games like Star Wars, Outlaws. I don't know what people wanted with that game. I have no idea. It was so good. To me, Days Gone. Well, Days Gone is getting its credit now, but I heard that early on it had a lot of bugs. I only played it a little bit at the beginning, and I didn't pick it up until, just a couple of months ago. I started playing it again. So maybe I'm just getting on when the games have been fixed, but even Outlaws, I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what more y'all want. Y'all are mad because it's a female protagonist? Come on, get the heck out of here. I just don't get that. But the thing that I'm getting at is the Avengers, you can ding them for that. But the Lost Legacy, that was a really, really solid game. Yet another game that I have upstairs that I haven't. Oh, man. I'm out here faking, man. I am faking. Every week I get on this show and I tell y'all how many of these games I have, and they are still in the doggone wrapper. I'm up here doggone man, I ain't gaming, brother.
What did he say?
Yeah. I need to do better. I need to do doggone better, man. But my backlog is ridiculous. But anyway, man, we'll see if this is true. I would love, because since this guy has actually worked on Uncharted, I wonder, would he be working on another Uncharted? It would make sense if he worked on the Lost Legacy for him to pick the reins back up and try again, give us another Uncharted. It doesn't have to be, Neil Druckmann behind it. This guy, he's more than capable of doing so. So we'll have to see. Like this guy said, his name, I want to give his name out one more time. Daniel RPK, he says that it is not The Last of Us Part 3. So we'll see. And this game has been in development for 3 years, allegedly. Imagine Neil Druckmann gets up on the stage. He shows off the Heretic Prophet. Then this guy, they're in like the Naughty Dog section of the show, and he gets up there. He doesn't say too much. He just says, enjoy. Lights go dim, and all of a sudden, it's a new Uncharted on the PlayStation 5. Now, we know what they were able to do with the PlayStation 4. Incredible graphics. Amazing. So I'm just imagining how much they could bump it up on the PlayStation 5 with an Uncharted game. We'll see, man. I know that they've been working, but we just want to see the fruit of their labor. And hopefully this year, during a showcase, possibly, if it does happen, we will get just a few of these gems in that show. But let's go ahead, though, guys, and let's get into the next story. And we're about to almost be done. But I got this story from the Game Post. So April 2nd, I've brought this up before, but April 2nd, it should be a huge day for Nintendo with the reveal of the Switch 2. But just like earlier, we got some more rumors about the Switch 2. So not too long ago, it was confirmed. Now this is actually another rumor about the Switch 2. So not too long ago, it was confirmed that the Switch 2 has a C button on the right Joy-Con controller. Now, after that, everybody's wondering, what does that C button do? What is the function of it? Well, Insider Extas, and we've talked about this guy quite a few times. His name is spelled EXTAS. He has the number 1 in his name with a S. Extas, he had this to say about the C button. He said, quote, The C button, and this is crazy, the C button will let the Switch 2 connect to a Switch 1. I don't know whether it'll use Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, infrared, or the cloud. No idea how they'll manage it, but the point is it allows the Switch 2 to link up with the Switch 1. Instead of using split screen, each person has their own screen, their own game view, but playing together. We could call it local multiplayer, all with just one copy of the game. You don't need to own 2 copies. Goodness gracious. End of quote. Now I will say that this sounds quite awesome. And it even goes into the dual screen rumors about the Switch 2 that we heard before, you know, being able to actually have that C button sync it up. Now you got 2 screens, things of that nature. We've heard something about a dual screen situation with the Switch 2. That makes a lot of sense if that happens. But just the fact that 2 people can share one copy of a game, I mean, shucks, for Nintendo that makes you pay for everything, man, that is a gigantic leap. Goodness gracious. These jokers nickel and dime you every second of the day. Shout out to them. Take one copy of the game and both of y'all can play it together. Fantastic. Now, like I say, with these rumors, always take it all with a mustard seed of truth. Again, we're going to find out soon enough, you know, about this situation. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is it's also another rumor going around that says on April 9th, and the source of that rumor came from internal communications at a U.S. retailer obtained by Insider Gaming. But on April 9th, you're allegedly supposed to be able to start the pre-orders on the Switch 2. So that'll definitely be something I'm sure that Nintendo will cover at their show on Wednesday, April 2nd. But this is just really, really nice to just see that Nintendo, you know, with that C button. And again, this is rumors, so we gotta, you know, kind of keep our expectations in check. But I'm just speaking on it from the perspective of if it is true. This is really, really great. This is great that you'll be able to share copies of the game, things of that nature. Now, it was something. Now, I'm a little hazy on the details, so I'm not going to say that this is verbatim. This is me really spitballing and really being very, very loose in the actual, how can I say, in the concrete facts of what was said in the article. So it's not verbatim the way that I'm saying it. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but the way I understood it is it's going to be, Nintendo came out and said that there will be Switch 1 games and there will be Switch 2 specific games where they're going to be separate. So it kind of made some people wonder, will the Switch 1 games actually be compatible with the Switch 2? It was something, a matter of fact, hold on. Where we at? An hour and 8 minutes. Oh man, I'm gonna have to get ready to go to work. Let me see if I can find this real quick, because I had the article up. Hold on. Here we go. So yeah, here it is. So it was from Games Radar. It says Nintendo quietly confirms Nintendo Switch 2 edition games as a separate thing to console exclusives following Virtual Game Cards' big reveal. So they had a Virtual Cards reveal. It says, quote, Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games and Nintendo Switch 2 edition games can only be loaded on a Nintendo Switch 2 system. Oh, end of quote. Nintendo states on its web page explaining the new feature. Switch 2 exclusive games we knew about, of course, but Switch 2 edition. The fact that this is stated as something separate to an exclusive game suggests that this is a different version of a game that'll already exist in some other way. So yeah, that's what they were talking about with that. So that's a little sketchy a little bit. We'll have to see how that works out in the end. But for the sake of time, let's get into the final story for this week. And I actually just wanted to let you guys know, now this is a game I've been keeping my eye on for a little bit of time, man. And the name of the game is called Precinct. It's spelled, it's like a police precinct, but it's called Precinct. Now the story, it takes place on the East Coast in the 1980s, where you play a rookie cop named Nick Cordell Jr. Now he's eager to prove himself after the murder of his father. And his father, he was actually a legend among the local force. So he's out there and he's trying to, make his dad proud. Matter of fact, if you haven't seen it, again, it's a really, really good trailer. It puts you in the mind state of the original Grand Theft Autos that actually took place overhead, the overhead view. But I will say this game looks really, really good. And like I said, if you haven't seen the trailer, matter of fact, let's just go over it together right now. Here we go.
Central to all units, bank robbery in progress. Be advised, suspects are heavily armed. Approach with caution.
Okay, kid. You wanted the real deal? This is it.
ACPD, drop it now.
Patrol units, we have reports of a hit and run. Let's go, Rook. We don't got all day. Target that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm hoping this shift is a little quieter than the last one. Either that or I'm going to need to put my cardiologist on retainer. Is it expired? Give him a ticket.
Hold it. Don't make me drop you.
Another day, another dime. Come on, kid. Let's roll.
Units in the vicinity, please respond to an incident. Last seen is...
The Precinct. This game actually comes out May 13th. May 13th. Looks like it's going to be a really, really good game. I'm going to tell you, this is the first time that I have been this excited about two AA games, Deliver at All Costs, and The Precinct. These two games they're like at the top of my list of games that I'm really looking forward to. But I would highly recommend, again, check this one out. What was the name of the game? I told you my memory is always bad. What was it? iView, something like that. The game I was talking about earlier. I ain't going to be able to find it. But yeah, check that out as well. And I guess I'm going to find it. I don't want to be on Professional Productions today. If I can get it and find it fast enough. It was called, man, I can't find that joker. Just rewind the podcast and you'll be able to hear me talking about it. But yeah, man, there it is. It's called Mind's Eye. Mindseye. Mind's Eye. But anyway, guys, that is that's the end of my eye. That is the end of the gaming news this week, which brings us into the final section of the podcast, and I got to make this quick. Now, the question is, were you impressed with the Switch 2? Now, of course, we got to wait for this show to happen. It hasn't happened yet. It's in a couple of days, but I'm just getting ahead of the curve. We will definitely be going over that on Wednesday, so you'll definitely get my thoughts in real time as the show is going on. But if you do want to be a part of that, like I always say, you can either call in to be a part of that, of the listener feedback by calling in at 443-627-9087 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and as always, thank you guys for being here. Thank y'all. Now, with that being said, before we tie this thing up and put a bow on it, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until Wednesday, it's going to be a big day when we do it again. Until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye. Don't let me down, Nintendo.